Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. You can't stop thinking about it, I can't stop thinking about it. So how about we have a bit of a discussion here today, talking about how we can map out this game. One of the first things we need to understand about this game is it is a Warriors game, so it will play like a traditional Warriors game. And if you're new to the Warriors series and don't know what that looks like, well, it's pretty simple. You roam around large interconnected maps while taking out hordes of enemies and turning the tide of battle in your favor. It really is basically a game of war. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity will not be an open world game like Breath of the Wild or Breath of the Wild 2. It is going to be a Warriors game first and foremost. These maps are huge, sure, but you can still see the boundaries in them just by taking a look at the maps and the gameplay demos we saw. So then the question arises, how are we going to turn all this into maps? I mean, how do we sanction this out? Like, is this a map? How about this over here? Does that count? I don't know. Fear not though, because that is exactly what we're going to be doing here today in this video. Splitting up Hyrule into different maps we might see in Age of Calamity. To start off our journey of mapping out Hyrule, we are going to start with what we already know, because as you might remember, we recently had some gameplay demos of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, and they showed us in-game maps. We know what at least 3 of the maps in the game are going to look like. The first map they showed us, of course, being Hyrule Field, and as you can see here in the map displayed in Age of Calamity, and here the map in Breath of the Wild, it lines up pretty well. Like, I can kind of draw out what this might look like based on what they have shown us in the gameplay trailer. I'm guessing it's going to look a little something like this. I mean, it's a rough outline, so you don't know exactly, but like, that's basically what we're looking at for Hyrule Field. So we don't quite get to the Coliseum over here, or to up by the Great Plateau, but the majority of Hyrule Field is going to be covered in this one map. And as you're going to see here in a second, it might just be the biggest map in the game. The next gameplay section takes us not that far away from Hyrule Field, going right over to the Breach of Demise, which is an area you might recognize, might not. It's right to the left of Hyrule Castle, and it's a pretty interesting area, a little canyon area. And just lining up the footage here and looking at how the map goes, we're looking at something about like this. It's going to mostly encompass just the Breach of Demise right here, the little canyon, and maybe a little bit outside. Now, the interesting part about this is if you look at some of the translations that came out of that specific gameplay demo, you can tell that this mission is on the way to the ancient Royal Tech Lab, or at least the Royal Tech Lab, which is located right here in Breath of the Wild. I mean, it's destroyed in Breath of the Wild, but in Age of Calamity, it won't be, and it will be home to 2 characters you probably remember, Pyrrha and Robbie. If we just do a quick comparison though, as you can see, Hyrule Field is covering a lot more land than the Breach of Demise, which my calculations might not be exactly correct here since we don't get to see all of the Breach of Demise map in the gameplay demo. But based on what I saw and what I could line up, this looks to be about the proportion we're looking at for that stage. So, as I said earlier, I think Hyrule Field is probably going to be our biggest stage because it is just covering so much of the land mass of Hyrule. The third location shown in gameplay was Death Mountain, of course, and this is our first look at a location close to one of the champions' homes, being Daruk. And the likeness is pretty good here as well. I mean, we can see that the pathways on this map line up with the one in Breath of the Wild, I mean, pretty darn well. You can see that we start off here over at the base of Death Mountain, and as we go up, this map even goes through Goron City over here, and kind of goes up to the Bridge of Eldin. And as you like zoom in further during the gameplay footage, you find even more of the details. I mean, the Warriors team did a really good job of just capturing these locations in the game from what we have seen so far. And as you can see, compared to Hyrule Field, still smaller. I mean, it's not quite as small as the Breach of Demise, which kind of gives you an idea of how they're going to change up the terrain here to just make it work a bit better in these maps. But it's still It's smaller, but like it's a pretty good area of space right there. Those 3 locations cap out exactly what we have seen of the maps in Age of Calamity. But there are still a lot of locations that have been hinted at by gameplay we have seen in trailers, or just by what we have seen in trailers, which is what we're going to get into right now. The first of which I want to go over is ZORA'S domain, which we have seen quite a bit of in trailers actually, from gameplay to cutscenes as well. So we've seen Link and Zelda meeting Mipha in ZORA'S domain. We've seen gameplay of Zelda against a Lynel in ZORA'S domain, and we've even seen Mipha on the Zora Bridge just like taking out a ton of enemies with a wave of water. So this location is pretty much a no-brainer going to be in the game, and based off just what I have seen of the other maps and what I'm expecting here, I'm expecting ZORA'S domain to basically go through the entire trail up to ZORA'S domain, because we have the city itself, which is a pretty decent sized location, but to add all these other paths into the actual map, I think that would round it out really nicely, and I think this is about what we could expect from that stage. The next location to show up in the trailers we need to talk about is in the HEBRA region, which is when we meet Revali, and he seems to be a little hostile, as per usual. But the thing is here, we don't know exactly where this map is going to take place. We see that it is in HEBRA, like that's pretty darn clear. I'm guessing it's going to be around the flight range, because I mean, that is Revali's place, you know? He likes to just chill there, but we don't have any clear indication to where exactly this whole map could take place, so I kinda have just come up with my own idea on where in HEBRA I think this is going to be, which is basically just located around the flight range, as you can see here. I'm guessing it's going to be around this whole area here that just goes around the mountains and in the trails. I'm guessing this is going to be a stage called HEBRA Trails or something like that. And it would be our first encounter with Revali, and it would be our first time working together with him after almost killing one another in battle, which I cannot wait to play. Next, we're off to Gerudo Town, which we have also seen a fair amount of gameplay of. In the original trailer, we saw Urbosa fighting in Gerudo Town, and in the most recent trailer, we also saw her fighting outside of Gerudo Town, which brings to question, is this map going to be just Gerudo Town, or is it going to be also Gerudo Desert? Well, I've been kind of back and forth on this whole idea, but I think we might see it play out like this, actually. I think we're going to see a Gerudo Town that also covers the Gerudo Ruins over here, and goes to the Bazaar, and just around these rocks, around those rocks, and basically just a Gerudo Desert and Gerudo Town mapped into one map. But the thing is, I don't think that's it. I think there might be another map also located in the Gerudo Desert, maybe taking place basically just over the entire rest of the desert. I have no clear guide to this. I'm just thinking, you can't waste all that space. You can't waste the great Gerudo Desert. I know it's kind of barren, but I mean, like, I think it could still make for a great battle out there. So I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I think we're also going to get a second Gerudo map over here in the desert. I don't know exactly about this yet. It might be split up differently. Who knows? Maybe just Gerudo Town itself is a map, and then the rest is just everything else in Gerudo Desert. It could be either. I'm kind of leaning towards this right now, where it's the start of Gerudo Desert, and then the rest is basically the back of the desert for the second map. But yeah, that's how I'm feeling for Gerudo. Going on in the first trailer, we then transition over to Daruk at AKKALA Citadel. Now, mapping out this one is kind of hard, because of course we have the Citadel right here, but then do I want to bring it all the way around and wrap in what would become Tarrytown? Or are we just going to use this area right here? It seems a little small. I mean, then again, Breach of Demise, so never know. But I'm thinking myself that it's going to be a bit of a longer stage, I'm guessing. I think it will be something more like this. I don't think we're going to get quite all this area over here with what would become Tarrytown and all of that. I think it's going to be mainly focused around the Citadel, and adding in a lot of the details we didn't quite get to see in the original game, like when all the barracks are up and running, and this is a great stronghold for Hyrule. Now here's a really interesting one though, because in the next part of the trailer, the first trailer, we see Revali fighting in this area right here, which seems to only really match one area in the game, which is right outside Death Mountain, which led me to the conclusion that we might get a map that is just the road to Death Mountain. And I think this could very much be a possibility, just like adding maps in between the big story points where we are going to actually, you know, do the big story points and do the big missions like over here at Death Mountain. I'm thinking this right here, the road to Death Mountain, just might be a bit of a filler map, which, I mean, that's cool. Like, any map is still cool. Give me all the maps that you can. Even if they're filler, I still like them, you know? And with that, I believe we have covered all of the locations you can actually see gameplay of in the Age of Calamity trailers. Thing is, though, I'm not done yet. I have more to map out here. Look at all this empty space. We can do better. Which I'm going to start with one that is very heavily implied, actually, because as you remember in the second trailer for the game, we see the champions going to see the Great Deku Tree, and we even see a scene of them walking in what seems to be the Lost Woods, which I think is going to be a map in this game. I think we're going to, on our way to visit the Deku Tree, have to fight off the hordes of Ganon to protect him, which I think would be located in a Lost Woods map, which would be amazing. I can't wait to see if they actually do that, because I feel like the Lost Woods in Breath of the Wild is just a bit of a missed opportunity because you can't really freely explore it, so I'd love to do that in Age of Calamity. My next idea here for maps, now that we are seeing a lack of concrete evidence to where these locations could be, is that, look right here, we see Death Mountain and the road to Death Mountain. Over here, I made two different GERUDO maps over there, so I'm thinking, for each champion location, for each main settlement, I think we're going to see two different maps, which we'll start over here with ZORA'S Domain. It's pretty obvious where the other map at ZORA'S Domain would be, which is the East Reservoir Lake. And I think basically this is just going to be a huge wraparound map where basically you're just going around the Reservoir Lake the entire time. Maybe we'll get up on the cliffs as well, find ourselves a Lionel waiting for us with shock arrows, who knows. But I think that makes the most sense for a second map located in ZORA'S Domain. Rito Village, on the other hand, is a bit of a harder one. So we already had the area up here with the HEBRA trails, basically what I was calling it. And I don't think we're going to go much further back into HEBRA. I mean, this map itself could be a much grander look at what HEBRA is. I think that's going to be like the main HEBRA map, this one right here. I think this other one will focus more around the circular shape of Rito Village again. We might go into the town. I'm not 100% sure on if that is something that we will see, because Rito Village is a bit of a crammed space to have a battle in, just saying. It could even extend like into the pathways leading up to Rito Village. Like, I mean, yeah, like out here a little bit, just like basically all around the main tower of Rito Village. Again, like with the East Reservoir Lake, we just love our circular locations with these past two maps. So if you count up where we're at now, we have 12 maps in total. And if you compare that to the original Hyrule Warriors, which had 18 maps at launch with another 2 coming as DLC, basically we're still below. We're still below, and I've exhausted all of what we currently know. But if you look at the map, there still is a lot of blank space here to just fill in. So I've kind of just taken the liberty of filling that in, like looking at the main locations of Breath of the Wild, where these maps would be suited to go, and now I'm going to tell you exactly what that is, you know, exactly what I came to as a conclusion. One location I'm pretty confident about is Upper Hyrule Field, because of course, as you know, Zelda loves its Hyrule Fields. It really loves Hyrule Fields. And I think this area right here would be a perfect place to have another Hyrule Field-like field, yeah. It's another big field right in the middle of Hyrule. I think it would be a great spot to have another battle. And I feel like you could do a lot with that area right there as well. We have to get down into Southeast Hyrule, though, because they are suffering down here with map space. They are not being taken kindly to at the moment, but I do see a lot of things happening down here. Of course, I think that Lake Hylia is a shoo-in. You can even add in a bit of Farron Woods there if you want. I kind of was thinking myself Farron Woods would be its own map, which I'm just going to circle now. And I think right here is 2 great maps. Farron Woods in Breath of the Wild is a really interesting location. You even have the Zonai Ruins there. which would be a very fun place to have a battle. And just, I really love Lake Hylia in Breath of the Wild. It's such a serene location. I'd love to have a battle at the serene location, because that's just how I think, apparently. But yeah, I think that would be really cool. These are two really good locations. I'm also thinking some kind of coastal map, just because you need to add that in. It's a big part of Breath of the Wild. There's a lot of coast to work with here, but I feel like down here by Lurelin would be probably the most interesting place to put that map, so that's what I'm going to go with for now. You want to talk about another really interesting location in Breath of the Wild, the Gerudo Highlands. This is a location that is probably my least explored in Breath of the Wild. I really just didn't explore this place a lot. It's a hard terrain to explore, but I think it could be a great map, just a snowy mountain region overlooking a desert. It's always a really cool contrast. You could even loop in Yiga Clan hideout here somehow and make that part of the map. I'm not sure exactly how it would go. I didn't look too much into it. I just thought, hey, Gerudo Highland would be a pretty cool spot. It's a big blank spot on the map if we don't use it, so I think we should use it. And we are coming down to the wire. This is 16 stages, and as I said earlier, Hyrule Warriors only launched with 18. I do think Age of Calamity will launch with more than Hyrule Warriors, just because there's a lot more to work with, but we're running out of ideas here. But not yet. AKKALA. AKKALA is a just really, really memorable place in Breath of the Wild. The autumn setting, I love it. It's one of my favorite locations in Breath of the Wild. I can just go there, and I always remember it. It's a very big part of Breath of the Wild, if you ask me. So I feel like there has to be something there. You might say AKKALA Citadel kind of goes into that, but I feel like you can do another one in AKKALA. I mean, maybe it's just me. Maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'd still love to see it. You know, it's another really memorable location I don't think should be left out in Age of Calamity is the Coliseum, which I was very surprised to see does not seem to be in Hyrule Field. But I do think it's very easy to just group this in with another really standout location in Breath of the Wild, which is Satori Mountain. I feel like this right here could be a pretty interesting map. Even if you wanted to, you could go even further and tie in the Thunder Plateau and this whole area over here as well, and just make one giant map condensed into some kind of mega stage still. But I feel like these two locations alone, maybe the Thunder Plateau if you're feeling lucky, really need to be in the map somewhere. They need to be represented somewhere. There's such big parts of Breath of the Wild. I really love both locations, and I would love to see them in the map, maybe together. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like there's only one area left that really deserves a whole lot more attention, which is over here at Mount LANAYRU. Now, I'm pretty darn sure about this stage, actually. I just wanted to save it for last because these two stages I'm about to mention coincide with what I believe will be the start of the game's ending. So, of course, we're going to have the promenade leading up to Mount LANAYRU, and we might even get into the mount. I'm not sure exactly about that. It might just be mostly focused around the promenade and then up to the base of the mountain. But I say that because, as you might remember, this is where our heroes were when the Great Calamity emerged at Hyrule Castle. You can see in Link's memory cutscene that is where they were. They were right here. So I feel like this needs to be a stage in the game because it's part of such a pivotal moment of the story. So you need to have this stage before you go into that. You might say maybe it's a bad place to put that just because you doubt there was a battle on the way up to going to the mountain. But I mean, hey, this is Hyrule Warriors. You need to do something in between all the story cutscenes. So I feel like that's a pretty good shoo-in to just put that there. And that leads us into what I think will be the game's 4 final stages, which will start with a revisit to Hyrule Field. Remember that stage? The one that I said was the biggest one in the game and is probably not only going to be used once because it seems like there's a lot of work being put into this one stage. Yeah, I think we're going to revisit it, except this time under the rule of Calamity Ganon, with Guardians running amok and just danger everywhere. Basically, really bad stuff. Like, you see that one screen from the most recent trailer where Von Naboris is looking over Hyrule Field? That's what I'm imagining. I'm imagining just basically utter chaos, apocalyptic scene right here. that we run through as Link and Zelda in a final stage leading up to their confrontation with Calamity Ganon. After this stage, if it hasn't already, I feel like the game is going to go into full-on climax mode. Basically with Zelda and Link confronting Ganon with some type of boss fight. I don't know exactly how that's going to play out. Hopefully the Warriors team has a better idea than I do, because I don't have any. While also seeing what we've seen in the trailers already, what seems to be the champions dying. They seem to be wanting to show that, because we see that in the original first trailer, and then even in the new trailer, we see Revali on Va Meadow talking to someone about the power of his divine beast. And the thing is, he's wearing his scarf there. He is a champion at this point. I mean, he could just be talking smack to Link after he became a champion, but I feel like this is moments before he dies. So I'm looking at some kind of chain boss fight here, where we go from boss to boss to boss and basically fighting the Blights in some way. It could be we are the Blights fighting the champions fighting the Blights, and it's an unwinnable battle. Or maybe you can win, but then it just goes into the cutscene, you know, like classic Xenoblade, where you win the fight, but you don't, you know. After the champions are defeated, I feel our next battle will be here at Fort HATENO, where we take on the onslaught of guardians that fell Link. And I feel like that's going to be another very tragic battle right there as well. Basically, what I'm building up here, what I want to see, what I think we might see, is a very tragic ending. And I'm kind of excited and very depressed about it at the same time, you know? Because you love to see that kind of storytelling in the Zelda series where they go darker. They're not afraid to just basically pile drive everyone, and just like it's just really bad stuff happening. But yeah, I'm very excited to see what they do with that. And that is it. That is all of Hyrule I think we're going to see in Age of Calamity. You might be asking, that's a pretty abrupt ending to just end here with Link, which if you've watched my other videos, you know that I want it to end over here at AKKALA Citadel, which I didn't talk about earlier, but I'm not sure if the cutscene we see, not the cutscene, the gameplay we see in the first trailer with Daruk is of this final battle, or if that is a second battle that also takes place at AKKALA Citadel, because you have to take that into consideration. They can definitely reuse maps here. It's not going to be all just new maps every single time, which is why my estimations here might be a little generous, because if you count, I believe we have 21 stages here. And as I've said many times already, the original Hyrule Warriors shipped with 18. So I might be thinking a little too generous here, but either way, I feel like I have some pretty great picks here, and I feel like this is a pretty good summary of what you can show in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity based off what you should, I guess. So yeah, I feel like it's going to end there at AKKALA Citadel with the fall, and it's just going to be really interesting to watch. And with that, we have broken it all down. We've gone from what we know to what we think we know to informed guesses, and this is the vision of Hyrule that I see. And I hope you guys agree with that vision. I want to know about your guys' visions of Hyrule and Age of Calamity as well, though. Tell me what locations you want to see. Did I miss any big ones? Did you think I got them spot on? Any that I kind of overestimated and you're not a big fan of? Let me know, because I'd love to hear all of your ideas. We gotta map this out somehow. If you enjoyed the video, I'd love to have you just stay around here and subscribe, you know? We're gonna be doing a lot of Age of Calamity content. Very excited about the game. Breath of the Wild 2 is still on the horizon as well. We have a lot of Zelda to look forward to. And I'm gonna be doing a lot of theories and ideas and just content on it. So I would love it if you guys could stick around and just have a great time with us, you know? If you're feeling like it, you can follow me on Twitter for more updates. We have a Discord server now as well. You can join that with the link in the description. And keep an eye on the Twitch page. We are getting very close to being verified on Twitch, which is very exciting. So if you want to help us out with that, go ahead. You know, we stream every Friday over there. A lot of fun. I'd love to have you there as well. Finally, you can leave a like on the video. Helps YouTube share it around. And if you want to share it yourself, you can do that as well. You know, I'm not holding you back. And thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you very soon with more videos. So, have a great one.